Alright, hey guys, we're gonna do a build video right now from scratch, and I'm gonna have Eric on here. He's on Skype right now. He's gonna read all of your comments, and I'll try to answer as many comments and questions as I can while I'm building this. So if you guys have any things going on where you're confused or something like that, you can just ask, and I will hopefully be able to help you. So what we're building today is we're going to be building a Mr. Steele 5-inch Alien. So this is our 5-inch Alien frame with, the chamfered arms. Everything's chamfered on the Mr. Steele kit, so you don't have the rough edges. It also comes with the Mr. Steele PDB, which is right here, untinned. And I'll show you guys all this stuff. Yeah. And then it comes with this is the new version of the PDB. So the old version had the out port for our input for voltage as far as the LiPo is concerned on the side. The new one has it back here, and I'll show you how to wire that up with this pigtail. And then we're running KISS V2 32 amp ESCs, which I've pre-done 3 of them because it's redundant if I do that and takes a long time. So we're going to do 1, and I'll show you exactly the lengths and everything to cut, so you're good in that sense. We got a nano Crossfire receiver here. We have a KISS V2 flight controller, and we have a Runcam Swift V2 right here with a 2.5mm lens. We have some wrap strap, some zip ties, some stuff, heat shrink cut to a specific length, which I'll talk about later. I'll give you all the lengths and all that so you can, figure out everything exactly the way I do it, especially this, which is going to be the, the antenna placement, the Immortal L, as I like to call it. And then, an SMA Triumph and a 5-volt nano, or 5-volt Unify, sorry. And then we have the foam wedge and the ETHIX straps, and we have all our hardware over here and our tools and whatnot. So to prep, as far as soldering goes, I don't even know what solder this is. Just people are going to ask, I'm sure. It is this. It's Kester. I don't even know what it is as far as, like, the amount of what and is in what. I can't even tell. Anyways, that's the solder I'm using. Sorry, okay. And the iron is at 890. It's a Hako. I forget the name of this thing, but yeah. And this is the tip that I have on there, which is not gonna focus, but you guys can see it's got solder on it, so I always leave solder on it. But it's a fairly small tip, but it's not the smallest tip. And then I have this wet sponge here. So that's kind of the situation we're working with there. And the tools that we're going to be using are a 2mm, a 2.5mm, a 1.5mm Allen driver, and then we're using an 8mm open-ended hex and an 8mm close-ended hex for the prop nuts, a wire stripper, a pair of dikes or end cutters, whatever you want to call them. And that should be it. We should be completely good. And I brought a razor blade just in case. Oh, and a heat gun. So those are the tools that I'm going to be using. And you will also need a computer with a USB mini cable so that you can program your ESCs and your flight controller. And you'll need a controller. And since we're running Crossfire, I'm running the larger Crossfire transmitter. That's the one we're going to be, updating our stuff with. So, and you'll need a battery, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn Eric over here. So Eric, are you there? He ain't there. Hold on. He is here. He's hiding. Eric, there you are.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah, I got you. All right. And I'm going to bring up the live stream so I can see what's going on. And I'm going to mute that. Dang, look at that. That's fancy. Let's go ahead and mute that before we get all that feedback life in my situation. Okay, so I'm going to set the camera up and we're going to begin the build. Eric, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. I figured I wanted to try this, so bear with me. Live stream. I wanted to try a live stream build because I haven't actually... Back. There we go. All right, so we're in. Eric, speak.
Hey, you might need to mute on the actual live stream from YouTube because there's some feedback some guy said.
It is muted.
You muted the YouTube
Yeah, I muted it immediately.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was just right before.
Can you guys? Oh God. Can you guys hear Eric? That is kind of the thing. Can you hear Eric? Eric, you good? Speak.
Yeah, I'm good. Just looking in the chat. It says people are saying yes, perfect audio. It's fine.
Okay. Dope. Well, let's get to building. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the frame together. And you're probably not going to be able to see my face, but you guys don't really want to see my face. You want to see what my hands are going to do. So we will get into that now. How's the quality of video? Is it good?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. So I just go ahead and I grab my oh, well, you know what? Before we even put the thing together, we should tin the PDB. Let's go ahead and do that.
They asked if it's possible just to raise the volume a little bit on my voice, or is it at max?
It's pretty high, but I don't want to okay, you're at max now, so don't scream. Right. Don't scream and you'll be okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Alright guys, so can they even see what I'm doing here?
Yeah, everything looks pretty good.
Is it
they're saying tin it.
Is it zoomed out or is it like close enough? Do I need to move anything closer? Are you guys good that far away or do you want to see things closer?
Let's see what they say here. Do you guys want it a little bit closer of a zoom in, or is this fine for you guys so you can see everything on the table? It looks like they're asking for it a little bit closer.
Does that work?
That looks like it's better.
Okay, cool. Alright, let's go ahead and start tinning. And I guess for the people that are new to soldering, because there are a lot of you guys out there, soldering is all about like getting the iron hot and getting the surface hot as quickly and like getting in and out, basically. You want to be in and out as quickly as possible. I know that sounds pretty dirty, but oh, and you should probably, instead of inhaling the fumes, I have this little solder sucker thing that I'm probably gonna fuck the audio up, but I'll only be on for a second.
It's not too loud. What temp do you usually run your solder at? They're asking.
900. I showed it at the beginning. I use it at 890 if you want to get super specific about it, but I run about 900. 890 to 900. And also, like, don't be afraid to have the iron too hot, but if you have it too cold, you'll rip pads off. If you have it too hot and you're not quick about it, that's a problem too. So you gotta be like, you gotta be fast with a hot iron, and that's the best way to solder. And I'm just kind of going back over some of these that, might need a little bit more. And, yeah, don't be afraid to throw solder. So now we'll go ahead and we'll just tin on this back piece here, which is going to be our, our power cable. And we want to be a little bit, special with this thing because there is an issue with people that don't know about securing this little nugget. So when you're tinning things, it's always good to tin both sides. Even though I know these are pre-tinned, it's nice to get them a little bit warm so that they take a little faster. And you'll probably see that it takes faster than you're used to. And you know, you can get the thing hot down below. Get it hot and then flow it. Flow the bottom. And then flow the top. Any questions so far?
Not really. A couple dudes were asking if you could zoom in more, but to see like exactly like the details of what you're doing. But yeah, since you're on like running it through the iPhone, that's kind of a little tough.
Yeah, sorry. I'll do another build video that's not live, but I just wanted to show you guys kind of how simple and quick this build can be if you kind of know what you're doing and you're ready to go. So we're all tinned and good to go now. I tinned everything on here, all the input for the camera, the output for the video transmitter, all of our telemetry wires, and power and grounds for our ESCs, and then I tinned the 5-volt jumper right here. There's a 7-volt and a 5-volt jumper. I've tinned the 5-volt because I'm running a Unify 5-volt video transmitter, and that's what we're going to be using. So we need 5 volts out. So I tinned that. Alright, so let's go ahead and build this sucker. And yeah, so I just take this and I'm gonna grab a rando screw. These are so this kit comes with 2 different types of longer screws or bolts, what have you. And you want to make sure that the microphone, which is the thing that's sticking off the front, is facing the front of the drone, which is the one that has the cutouts here. And then we're going to use these things that are like self-tapping. They're like self-tapping little nutserts. And we're going to screw those. Oh, well, we probably need the little... I'm so used to the old school ones that... actually, you know what? I don't even need the PDB. This is super new to me. I've done 10 of these, but I forgot. So you don't put the PDB on yet. I'll talk to you about that in a second. You put this thing on, which is the PDB plate now. And I'll show you what I did and why I made that mistake. Because usually the old school PDB, like, it was part of the structure. On the new one, it's not part of the structure. And these nutserts actually sit inside of this carbon piece. So anyways, yeah, we're going to get these in here. You want to make sure this, I have a zip tie run through the back of this. It goes down and up, and why it's there now is because it's a pain in the ass to put in later. So make sure you put a zip tie in here before you assemble this, or you're going to regret it. So we have the nutserts on top. We have the little tail on the back of the quad. This is where the camera plates go. These are little cutouts for the K plates. This is the front where the camera goes. So just be kind of conscious when you're putting it together that you're putting it together in the way that it goes, or you're going to have to take it apart, and that always sucks, taking it apart.
What gauge wire do you use for your XT60 pigtail?
So XT60 pigtail wire is always a 14 gauge. I used to think that, I mean, you can get away with a smaller gauge, like if it's a really short wire. I know there's probably some dude out there saying, oh, I use, 18 gauge wire, 20 gauge wire for my XT60. Well, from my experience, like, I've never melted one, so I can't really say that 14 is like the go-to, but that's just what I use for the XT60. It's always 14 gauge at the smallest for me. And then the next step up, if you really wanted to like get super lightweight, I think 16 would be the lightest, but 14 works. And I use 18 gauge on the ESCs. So I'll talk to you guys about that here in a minute when we start getting the ESCs all soldered up. I know this is monotonous, me putting these on here, but I'm sure there will be people that are going to be liking the fact that, putting this thing together can be hard. I've actually seen people put it together where like they try to put it all together at one time and they have arms like falling out and flipping all over the freaking place while they're trying to screw these things in. So, is it out of frame too much, or am I in frame?
No, you're perfect. It's centered perfect.
Okay.
Haditz Baroya, he asked, is there any different tech on the V1 and V2 of the PDBs?
There is no difference other than I think the V2 has a little bit more, like maybe one or two more capacitors, and then the and it's not part of the structure anymore, where the V1 was a physical part of the alien frame, like the PDB held it together. So here's what I'm doing. Like I have these are the steel screws, and how you can find these is if they're in your little in a bucket or something, you just take a magnet and it'll pick up all the steel screws, so you know which ones to put where. But they're a different color than there's these aluminum. They're anodized aluminum screws that are here, and they're the longer ones. Those go for the flight controller. So you have 6 per arm here, or sorry, 3 per arm. You have steel, aluminum, steel, and the reason you want the steel ones is because you're going to be pulling in these nutserts, setting them into this piece of carbon. And if you do it with aluminum, there's a chance that it could break if you don't do it correctly or you don't do it slowly enough, so they just went ahead and went to steel. And it's also more rigid. If you hit something, it's not going to shear the aluminum bolt. It'll actually just, bend it versus shearing it. And also, when I'm tightening these, I'm doing it all by hand, and I'm pushing up and in as I'm tightening so that I get a nice purchase on the actual bolt itself, or you will strip it out. Believe me, ask me how I know. And then the other thing is kind of do it like you're tightening a car wheel. If you're familiar with doing anything with automotive, like a car wheel or torquing down anything, you always go like one side, the opposite side, here, 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 here. Kind of star it, I guess, would be the term. I don't know, what is that
PK
term?
asks, any need for torque settings on those screws, or just, you just tighten them down until they're tight?
There's no torque settings. You just tighten them until you feel like the nutsert itself has set fully in the carbon. And you can see probably on this that the nutsert is sticking out of the carbon. And as I tighten it, you'll see it sink in. And so I actually do this wrong. If you talk to Impulse RC, there's this little tiny washer that comes with the kit. You're supposed to put that washer on the screw itself and then tighten and pull all of these in individually so that you don't scratch the carbon. And I think that's completely ludicrous. So you're talking about carbon fiber here. You're gonna crash it. It's gonna get scratched. Putting these nutserts in is the least of my worries as far as scratching carbon fiber.
Dangerous FPV wants to know if you are building a 4.5.
No, I don't like 4.5s, and the reasoning behind that is because it pushes the camera back to where you have to run more angle than I think is necessary to get their props out of view. So I don't like 4.5 bodies, or I don't like 4-inch bodies on the 5-inch arms, because the 5-inch arms push the props out a little bit further, and then you can get props in shot, and I just don't really, that's not my style. So I don't care about the weight savings or how cool it looks. I just run the 5-inch bodies. It's been my go-to since the beginning, and the frame was designed around running 5-inch body and 5-inch arms for a reason, specifically to keep GoPro stuff out of shot. So now that we have the frame together, sorry, I'm going to try to keep this place not super cluttered. We have the frame together, we have the back little, spider tail or whatever you want to call it with our zip tie in it running through and out. Doesn't necessarily matter which side the lock side is on. But this is the front of the quad, this is where our camera is going to go, and we have it set up like this. There's no real way to mess this up. Like, you can't put the arms in backwards, and they're all universal, so you're good to go once you get that up like that. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to attach the PDB to the actual frame, to where the old PDB, the V1, actually was part of the frame. The new one sits over all of these nutserts pretty perfectly, but if you don't like lock it down, then it can move and fall off. So that is what this little piece of whatever this is like really thin double-sided sticky tape. And you know, the one thing I didn't grab was scissors. Hold on a second. I'm throwing wrenches into the mix. So we're gonna cut this double-sided sticky tape into like 4 pieces. And this is
Louis P wants to know, does that print come chamfered or did you file it?
It comes chamfered. The Mr. Steele version comes chamfered. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that double-sided sticky tape into 4 pieces, and we are going to peel off the double-sided part, or at least one side of it, which is really difficult for some reason right now. And I don't even know if this is how you do it, okay? I don't know if this is the intended, I'm sure it's the intended use for this piece of double-sided sticky tape, but as far as how you do it, this is just how I do it. So, you know, Sean's probably
the dudes all, are you going to use bot grinder motors?
Oh yeah, you know it. You know I am. I'm going to use those ghetto birds.
Exactly. Dude. So what is the price difference on the normal versus the Mr. Steele version, asks Mike Ketip.
So the Mr. Steele version, I think, retails for $159, but it comes with the PDB, which will make your life easy as far as if you want OSD for a KISS specifically. So this is going to be a KISS V2 build, and that's like this is built around KISS, which is Flyduino electronics, and we'll talk about those more as the video progresses. But that iFlyKISS, Flyduino, this is the PDB that comes with the Mr. Steele kit. It has an onboard audio microphone that's actually a dynamic filtered microphone, so you know when it's quiet it listens really like highly, like the dB goes up, and then when it's loud it cuts back the dB so that you don't hear all that prop noise and you just hear, or you don't hear all the wind noise, you just hear the prop noise. And then it's also filtered power for video, so you get no lines in your video, and you also get the telemetry and OSD, so you can go into the OSD and change PIDs or change whatever you want through your OSD. So you also have an OSD, which is completely configurable as well, but all of that stuff is, you know, it's all set to my standard out of the box. I don't flash these. I just get them and use them how they are intended to be used, which is how they are made, because it's my board and that's how I wanted it, and I wanted the OSD to be simple. So when people say, will you do flash it to the newest firmware? No, I've never flashed one of these things ever. I just pull them out of the box, put them on the quad, and it's good to go. So now that we've put these little pieces of tape here and we have our PDB with our pigtail soldered onto it, we're going to take a razor blade, and this is a really easy trick to be able to get this double-sided sticky tape off usually. I don't know, have you ever used this, Eric?
No, I never used it, but usually I use a razor blade to take off any of that.
No, not this double-sided sticky tape, but just double-sided sticky tape in general. If you use a razor blade to like grab it.
Yeah, I always use a razor blade. I can't do it. I don't really have like nails to just pick it up.
Yeah, I showed this to Stinger Swarm one day, and it blew his mind. He had been like fiddling with it forever, trying to get it off with his fingernails and shit, and I was just like, nah, dude, fucking stab it with a thing. So yeah, mustache down, microphone forward, pigtail through the back, just line it all up, stick it on, you're good to go. That's how it looks. And now the one key thing is we're going to feed the zip tie out slightly, and we're going to zip tie these wires down. And now why do we do this? Mainly so that if we eject a battery, we don't have to do it super tight, but you know, you just want it snug. The reasoning is because if you're just relying on the pads, the solder pads, to hold this from ripping off, if you eject the battery, it's going to rip those pads off and you're going to completely ruin your PDB. So we have that little solder thing there for relief for this, so you can pull on it and it's not going to hurt the pads behind it. Okay?
Quad Dog wants to know, in 2019, are you preferring using 4-in-1s or separate ESCs for your builds?
So this build is going to be built around a 4-in-1, or built around separate ESCs, specifically because this PDB is designed for separate ESCs. I still think that separate ESCs for the Alien is the better option, and I'm working on something. Hopefully, I don't know, can't really talk about it, but it will be designed more for a 4-in-1. But this is for individual ESCs, and it's a bulletproof setup that I've been flying for 4 years. Not exactly this, but you know, variations of this. So that's kind of the answer to that question. The Alien is specifically good for single ESCs in my book, and it works with 4-in-1s, but at the end of the day, I think it's just easier to do individual ESCs on this frame. So we've got our frame all set up. I'm not going to put in the plastic pieces because when we solder here in a little bit, it's going to get in the way, and I don't want that to be the case. But now we're going to go ahead and we're going to set this frame aside. We're not going to put any other hardware on it yet because I want to show you what we're going to do next, which is we're going to build the ESCs and the motors and whatnot. We're going to put them all together. So let me set this over here, and this is a motor. We have an ESC, and we have a piece of heat shrink. We have our motor pants, and we have our wires, which I have here, which are 18 gauge red and black wire, and they are cut to roughly 25 millimeters, which is about an inch. One of them is longer than the other, but I'll show you why I cut it to 25 millimeters. So cut it to about 25 millimeters, and then you strip and tin one side, and we leave the other side not tin because we're going to cut it to length. And then we also want 3, which there's a kit on Team Black Sheep that has all of this in one box, and it comes with all of this wire. And this is 28 gauge silicone wire. We always use silicone wire because silicone doesn't melt under heat, where vinyl stuff does. We're going to cut these little guys, these little 28 gauge wires, to roughly 20 millimeters, and we're going to strip and tin 3 of them. And obviously we need to do that times 4, so at the end of the day we're going to have 12 of these little wires, and we're going to have 8 of these red and black wires, 4 of each, obviously, because we have 4 motors, 4 ESCs, and we need 4 of all that. So I did some of the stripping and tinning with the wires and whatnot, but I left the motor pretty much intact so you can see how I do this. I'm going to go ahead and I apologize, but this thing that I'm using right now makes life so much easier, and a professor in college made this, and they're not for sale, so I don't know what to tell you. I've had so many people ask, what is that thing and that wooden thing that you use? It's called a solder buddy, and this dude named Dr. Tingler made it.
Dr. Tingler.
Legit, that's his name. And yeah, he fucking made these things. They were like $60, and when I bought it, like I took this class in college, and he was like, he kind of pressured everybody into buying one because it was kind of like his side business. And I was like, God, this is a waste of fucking money, but I feel bad for the guy. I'm gonna buy it anyways. And now it's like the one thing that I use on a daily basis when I'm soldering, because it's got like this little wooden vise. And the thing about wood is it's non-conductive, and it also absorbs heat really well. California knows all about that heat absorption, that wood heat absorption. So we're gonna tin our ESCs, and just again, like I said, be quick and get in there and get out. And I'm gonna go ahead and stick on, which we've already tinned these wires, which were cut to about an inch. Always wet the tip. I know these are pretty crude terms, but you understand where I'm coming from. If you don't wet the tip, it ain't going to go in very easily, and then that's called rape, boys and girls. Or it's just called brutality, I don't know. Depends who you're talking to. I can't believe there aren't any questions. Why are you being so quiet, Eric?
There's not, like, they're just saying, like, random stuff.
They're just people talking shit, like, on the interwebs.
They're just, like, saying what's up and stuff like that. Nothing really Nothing really pertaining to like the actual build right now too much.
Also, a thing with the ESCs, I always solder, or I always strip and tin like a very little, like a little portion in the back. So, like, I don't strip off a huge amount of wire. I strip off a very tiny amount of wire, and then I stick the wire on the end of the ESC, so I don't actually solder it to the top of the pad. There's actually, on KISS ESCs, there's these little cutouts that stick out the back of the ESCs, like they're little indentions. So I strip off a piece of wire, just a tiny, tiny little nugget, and I tin it, and then when I stick it onto the ESC, I'm actually sticking it in the little notch rather than putting it on top of the pad. And that makes it so you don't have to run as much wire.
Dirks wants to know about your doormat, the carpet doormat, so you don't lose any of your screws and stuff when you drop them.
Oh, it's just a doormat, man. Amazon, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's nothing special. Just make sure when you are done soldering, you kind of look over the ESC and make sure there's not any like solder balls that have splattered all over the place. You know, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Like, just make sure you check. You don't. It's not likely that that happens, but sometimes when you're soldering, you can get resin splatter, which is fine. But if you get solder splatter, that's when it's not fine. So what we're gonna do now is, I forget the exact measurement of the wires that I cut here, so we're gonna measure them, and I'll tell you exact distances because I know people are gonna ask. And this is from like the lip. Basically, the lip of the motor out is about 35 millimeters. Technically, it's about 34 millimeters if you want to get super, super technical with it. So from the lip of the bell, or actually not the lip of the bell, but where the motors come out on the base, it's about 34 millimeters. And if you want to, I do this when I'm doing a lot of them, which I did recently. I just mark it with a Sharpie. Can you see what I'm doing?
Yep. Yeah, you're good. Like all your whole mats and frame.
All right.
Pretty much.
And then I snip those little nuggets off here. And
Stealth wants to know, why do you stick with 35 millimeter standoffs and you don't go to 20 millimeter like drop frame standoffs?
Okay, so I tested the 20 mil, and that was like way before it even came out. And to be quite honest, I just don't like how it flies with that lower center of gravity. It just felt weird, and also it put props in shot, and also it was more of a pain in the ass to fix. You had to take things apart a lot more to like get to certain things. So it was kind of like an ease of repair, because that's, I mean, these things break a lot, obviously, not like a lot, but you crash them and you need to repair things. So it's not often that you're just like, yo, I'm gonna build the tightest build ever, and you're happy with it, because yeah, it might look great on photos and it might look cool to your buddies because it's slammed, but it's very much like the practicality of a slammed car versus the practicality of a car that's at stock ride height. Like, yeah, you can go into every single driveway known to man, but it doesn't look as cool. But when you're slammed and you get stuck on somebody's fucking speed bumps, it's similar to the kind of practicality. Like, can you repair it in the field? Yeah, but it's a little more of a pain in the ass. And I'm all about that ease of use. So
Rabbit Assassin wants to know, is that 32 amp ESCs that you're soldering now?
Yeah, these are KISS 32 amps. The 25 amps will work perfectly fine. I just have 32 amps. So if you want to run a 32 or a 25 amp, it'll work. I will say that if you're not very good at soldering, if you're newer to soldering, a bigger PCB is going to be a lot easier to solder to than a smaller PCB, and the 25 amps are challenging for me. So if you think, they're not like challenging, but they're not easy. So you can't just like lacklusterly, throw those things together. So we have
Huey Meeks. He just wants to know what motors are those that you're using right there, and where can he buy the frame He can just get everything from the kit that's for sale, correct?
Yeah, there's a kit online that I'll have to put in the description. Go to TBS, which is teamblacksheep.com, and type in Mr. Steele Alien kit, and you should be able to find everything. It's like $5.99. That comes without a receiver. That's everything in the box, and that's actually cheaper than if you went out and tried to buy all the parts individually. So I will say it sounds kind of expensive, but the KISS stuff is very expensive. The flight controller is almost $70, and the ESCs are about $30 a piece, so you got 4 of those. It adds up pretty quickly when you're talking about like KISS stuff, which I prefer. I think it flies better. I think it's easier to set up. So, anyways, these are Mr. Steele Silks. These are the 2440 or 2345 kVs, and they have the silk bell. I'll talk more about that later, but there's a black bell that can go on here that has an N52 magnet, which gives you a little bit more thrust, but you sacrifice a little bit of what is it? Efficiency, sorry. And then I have a 6S setup that has a black base, and I prefer that black base with the black top, and then the white base with the white top. It's just kind of the setup that I originally liked. The N48 magnets with the white bottom, which was meant for 4S, and then the black base with the N52, which was the black top, which is good for 6S. Gives you a little bit more response, and it's so efficient already that it doesn't really matter with the stronger magnets. So here's what we have. I put this piece of heat shrink over here that comes in that kit. These are about 1 inch, I think, if you want to cut the heat shrink. Yeah, it's about 35 millimeters, so a little over 1 inch. You could probably go 40 if you really wanted to be super safe about it. I'm going to shrink this up, and then I'm going to put them all onto the quad, and we'll try to get moving here because I don't want this to take forever. So I just have my heater on the table, laying sideways, and I'm kind of just rolling the ESC.
Is it necessary to use alcohol to clean off all your solder after you're done?
Necessary? No.
The rosin.
Necessary? No. I don't think it's necessary, but is it? I used to do it a lot. Like all of my builds back in the day, I would take a brush and alcohol and like clean everything. And I don't do it anymore because I just haven't had any issues. So, and it's a kind of a pain in the butt, and I don't even worry about it anymore. So I would say no. If you're really anal, then yeah, you can take rubbing alcohol, like the 91% you get from your local like convenience store, or not convenience store, but like a drugstore, and you can just take a toothbrush and dab it on there. You can put as much on there as you want. You could pour the whole bottle on there. It's going to evaporate. It doesn't hurt the electronics, and then just like scrub it off. But the problem is if you don't put enough, you scrub it, then it just like spreads it everywhere. So you kind of have to like put it on, scrub it, put more on, scrub it, put more on until it kind of washes it away, and it ends up just being messy and sticky and gross. So I just leave the rosin on there. So here's what we have, and I have 4 of these right here. In the Mr. Steele kit, so it comes with a box. Like you're gonna get a box like this. You open that box, and you're gonna get this little baggie and this motor inside. And what's in this baggie is 2 different things, or actually 4 different things. There's 2 separate motor pants, which I'll explain here in a second if you guys are new and don't know what those are. Most motors have what's called a pant to the motor. So this is called a naked bottom motor. So the bell is like free spinning, but the base of the motor is completely empty. This is very much like an old school plain motor. They didn't really need anything to protect the back of the motor because it wasn't really doing anything. Most motors come with some kind of thing underneath it that looks like this, but it's made of metal and it's built in. And then you can also, like later in life, if you really think your motor is going to get hurt or something, you could 3D print like a piece that went around the outside of the motor and protected the bell from like hitting anything like this. Now these motors come with both of these what we call pants, and these are made of polycarbonates, plastic, which has multiple purposes for like way better than metal. One of the purposes is you get this one, which you can put on there if you're feeling like you're going to fly around concrete. You might hit a motor. It's going to protect it from being dented. It's springy, it's bouncy, and it's plastic ultimately. If it breaks, it's not that big of a deal. You just take it off and the motor's fine, and they're cheap to replace. So yeah, and it's all keyed, goes on, and this is our like protective one. And then if you just want protection from like dirt getting up under the motor, then you can run the basic one, which just fills the motor around. If you hit something, and usually if you have a metal bottom and it bends the base and it touches the top, then yeah, you have to bend that metal back. But it being plastic, it doesn't do that. It usually bends up, and then you can just fly it until it melts the plastic down flat again if you really wanted to go that hardcore about it. And if you really don't care and you want to run it open like this, you can. So you have 3 options. And you also get a prop nut, and you also get some mounting hardware. But with the Mr. Steele Alien frame and all Alien frames, you do get aluminum hardware. So we're not going to use this stainless steel with Loctite hardware on it on this particular build. So I'm going to run the pants that have no protector, or they have a protector, but it's like not the big one. I'm going to run the small guy. And then I'm just going to go ahead and screw the prop nut on there so I know where it is. And that's kind of our final setup, and we have 4 of those over here. Now the one downside to the pants is you can't take them on and off without unsoldering it from the ESC, or unsoldering it from the frame, because they are locked. That's the only downside, but you know, honestly, I've never broken one of these pants, so I got nothing to complain about. So let me show you how to do this. This is going to be a fairly time-consuming portion, but I feel like it should go fairly quickly. We're going to put all the motors on here. So this is the most time-consuming portion of the entire build, and I'm going to try to show you how to make it quick and show you the technique to make it look clean. So we're going to grab 2 screws. So these are 2 small 2.5 millimeter screws that come with the Alien kit. And these motors are actually set up to where they're 19 by 19 millimeter. And they're all 19 by 19, 19 by 19, 19 by 19. Usually it's staggered. It's 16 by 16 millimeter and 19 by 19. Some people have tried to make it 16 by 16, 16 by 16. I prefer the wider stance. That's why I went 19 by 19. The Alien's actually cut for both 16 and 19 millimeter staggered bolts. So if you look here, you can't really see it, but there's actually a little tiny cutout where you can put either. It'll go into the 16 hole or the 19 hole. They're actually one kind of oval looking hole, but they have a little bit of a relief in the middle so you can tell which one is which. So I'm going to put these into the 19 hole, obviously diagonal from each other, and we're going to screw this motor on with 2 screws opposite of each other like this, or 2 bolts, if you will. These are aluminum bolts, by the way. And I'm tightening these just with my fingers until they stop. You want to make sure they're tight, but you don't want to over tighten them because the motor and the screws are aluminum and they will strip if you tighten them too much. So just tighten them until they're tight, but don't like romp down on them like we did with this steel stuff here. So again, we got 2 screws. I only ever run 2 screws. I've never had a problem. So I'm just going to do it that way, and we're going to call it a day. So what we're going to do next is we're actually going to strip and tin the ends here. And I do one at a time so that everything is straight, and I don't have things like dangling around while I'm trying to work. So I'm going to cut these to all the same length so that they're all the same length, because right now we're going to deal with something that's pretty much all the same length. And I'm going to line it up to where I'm going to cut these wires about the length of the end of the pad. So I don't know if you can see this, probably not because my hand's in the way, but I've cut everything to where it's going to basically line up on the pads here. Now, obviously I'm giving myself a little bit of extra room, a little bit of wiggle room, but that's kind of the gist of the situation. And we're going to pull this up, and now we're going to strip all of these and tin them, and then solder them on to the PDB. You bored yet, Eric?
No, I'm just reading what people are saying.
What are they saying?
Some guys want to know, like, is it necessary to run caps on 4S or...
Definitely not. No caps on 4S.
Or is it just a 6S thing?
It's just a 6S thing. I've never seen them on 5S or 4S. It's pretty much just a 6S thing. And honestly, like, I spoke to Felix of Flyduino, which is the guy that made the all the hardware for KISS, and he said that he recommends running caps on 6S, but it's not exactly like, I've actually had people message me and say that they just ran it without caps and it runs fine. Now that is probably true and probably will work fine, but you may have issues, and I'm not gonna like condone that. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. like you can probably get away with it, but it's kind of like, you know, going out and partying without protection. You might be good, dog, but you might not.
Cyber Banana wants to know, will this be recorded and posted later? Yeah, it's live, so it's gonna stay on Steele's YouTube channel.
Yeah, it'll stay on there, and also it'll be a higher resolution later because it'll upload the HD image. So I've soldered those on. That's kind of how it looks when we're done. And
what type of solder do you use?
I don't even know. This type. We talked about it at the beginning of the video. Sorry for the guys that are joining, that are like, you know, they're seeing all of this for the first time and it's so new and interesting. I don't know what the solder is, but yeah, if you want to, well, I guess you can't scroll back until the video is done.
Yeah.
So again, bear with me as I do this 4 times because this is the only part of the build that's going to take, you know, a substantial amount of time, mainly because I'm doing it 4 times. But yeah, once I get this, then everything will be fresh and new, and we will be able to go quickly. Eric, you good?
Yeah. I'm just, you have like 300 people in here, so I have to like
quickly
go through all the messages.
Quickly read things. Yeah. Can you guys hear Eric well? We hope. I hope my cat doesn't jump on this table right now.
There's this shit ton of people asking about where Parmesan. Where do you hide your Parmesan? You know what that means?
Nope, no idea what that is.
I have no idea what that means either. They keep asking it, but
it's probably
maybe
like,
somebody will.
It's probably like
maybe somebody will say what it means.
Those mozzarella sticks that everybody's talking about these days. Everybody's all about their mozzarella sticks on those meme channels.
Yeah, I'm waiting for someone to like. They said thick parm. I don't know what that means.
I mean, I know what thick is, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know what thick is too, but
I don't know what that thick parm is. Dude, I'm inhaling all of the smoke.
Yeah, you should turn on your fan. It wasn't that loud.
Yeah, but I'm like far enough away from it.
You don't want to die.
I'm far enough away from it where it's like, ooh, dude. Come on, you little sucker, get over there. Oh yeah. How long does it usually take you to build a quad, Eric?
Like 3 months.
Like that plane? Did you ever finish that plane Ruben gave you?
It's halfway there. I was just talking to him on the phone about working on it.
Yeah? What did he say?
That's what I thought.
Why?
No, he was just like you're almost there, like you just finish it up. Like I didn't know like a couple. He gave me like all the components for it and stuff, and I didn't know like how to set up a couple of them, so he just was going through it with me.
Oh.
There was stuff I didn't need.
Stuff you didn't need that you had? Did you buy it?
No, there's stuff like that he gave me. Like there's like wires and stuff I could have just like snipped off, and that I didn't need on like the ESC and stuff like that, and like this like little switch and everything. I didn't need it, and I had no idea. So, but yeah, I need to finish that thing.
So there was a point in time where I would solder all of the wires to be like, I would solder the ESCs to where they were, where they would spin the right way. You know, on KISS there's like these little jumpers that you can solder that make the ESCs spin one way or the other. And I used to be super anal about it, and like I would, you know, solder the jumper one way or solder it the other. And it got to a point where like certain motors would spin a different way, because it's all about how the motor's wound, depending on which way the motor's going to spin when the wires are straight when you solder it up to an ESC, and it's also depending on the ESC's like default firmware. Anyways, I've gotten to a point now where I just do it all in the software portion, because you can do that now where you could not do that 3 years ago. Actually,
yeah, do you remember you like actually crossing over the motor wires also?
Yeah, you're like, bro, I did it wrong. And then you have to fix it.
Like I remember the first time I saw those like jumper pads on the KISS ESCs, I was like, genius.
Yeah, and now that's old school.
Yeah. Do you run reverse props? No.
No.
I don't believe you do you?
No, definitely not.
No. You don't like that
I don't like
super grassy quad.
I don't like that super grassy USB is really why I don't use it. So
Exactly.
I'd much rather my camera be full of grass than my USB port on the side of the quad. And it also, like, I have flown it before, and the yaw is extremely different. Or not extremely, but it's noticeably different. It doesn't feel the same. Now, it's probably, like, similar, but, you know, whatever. I ain't gonna argue with you. I don't like it. I prefer the way that I've been flying forever, and that's kind of the reason. That's kind of what I preach is, you know, stick with what you know. Don't keep changing shit every month. You never get good. If you're always changing your setup, you're never gonna fucking get any better.
Few people wanted to know if you waterproof anything. I guess like conformal coat.
Nope. Never have. Never even tried it. Don't care. Don't crash in water enough to care. And if I do crash in water, which I haven't, where's some wood? Then, you know, actually I have put a quad in water, and I just hosed it off when I got home with like cleaner water, and just let it sit overnight, and it was good the next day. So I think it just depends on if your setups are built well and you understand that when you pull it out of the water, you can't immediately turn it on and expect it to work, then you'll probably be fine. It's kind of like a phone. Like if you drop it in the toilet, obviously it has pee on it, but you throw it in a bag of rice, kind of. Same kind of concept with a quad. Throw it in a bag of rice, or just leave it out for a while.
There's been a few comments too, like people want to know if this is going to be one of the quads that you put up for sale.
It is. This is the last one of the 4S category. So this exact quad will be for sale in like...
Hey, people really want that doormat.
Get in line, my dudes.
We got to spray paint. We got to get a stencil and just buy a button and spray paint ETHIX on it.
That's ridiculous.
ETHIX doormat.
3 doors down, my dog. Okay, so I've soldered on all of the ESCs here. I'm going to go ahead and show you a little trick of mine that makes this a little bit cleaner and a little bit nicer. So I got to grab some double-sided sticky tape and a few props, so give me a second.
No, I'm not with Steele at his house. I'm at my house. We're doing this over Skype. Well, this is on YouTube, but the audio is over Skype.
Alright.
That watermelon life.
Yeah, I need some V1S, my dude. Alright, so I got a prop And you don't have to use a new prop, but obviously since we're selling this quad, I need to use a new prop. We're going to cut it. We're going to use double-sided sticky tape, and we're going to make a little bit of protector for the ESCs. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a prop, and I think this quad should be pink or green. What do you think, Eric? Or both? I think both.
I'd go with that sushi roll green, my dude.
Alright, sushi roll green it is then.
Yeah.
Oh god. Just cutting brand new props like I don't give a fuck. So we're gonna cut these props at the base. So
have you ever tried any other frame? Or do you just stick with that one?
I have tried other frames, and they all fly like different, and I don't like it, so I like this one. So it's funny, people ask me that. They're like, you should fly the same thing all the time. No, people send me shit all the time. No, I don't want to build it, but usually I go to events and people are like, yo, you should fly my quad. And I fly it. And they're like, what do you think? Well, it's cool. The build looks way more ridiculous than I want it to be. And also, it's, you know, whatever. I don't really feel like switching. I think the most high quality frames made on the market have always been by Impulse RC, and that's kind of what I'm all about, is using the highest performance stuff that I can get my hands on. It just so happens that I, you know, started making videos and people started liking them, and I just started approaching the companies that I already flew their gear and was like, yo, can you guys send it to me for free since I'm kind of a spokesman for you? And they ultimately said yes, and that's how I have the sponsors that I do. I went to all of the sponsors, all the people that I already flew their gear for years and spent thousands of dollars with them, and asked them to send me it for free, and they did. And that's, you know, the last 4 years in a nutshell. I flew this stuff forever before I was sponsored by it. So we're gonna cut these props into something that looks like this, and you saw me just do that, and it takes, you know, 2.5 or 1.5 props to do that if you're running a tri-blade. And then we have some double-sided sticky tape here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on electrical tape as well. I'm going to put it on a little guy like this. I'm take a razor blade, I'm going to cut it, I'm going to cut it in half again, and now this is where you needed to put 2 screws in so that you could get the spacing correctly, because if you put 1 screw in, it doesn't really ever work correctly. So I'm going to put 2 screws in, and I'm going to have to take them back off, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to put the double-sided sticky tape on the bottom of the ESC like this, and we're going to take our razor blade, and I know you can't see what I'm doing exactly, but you will on a future one, and I'm going to pull that off, and I'm going to take this ESC and kind of snug it down, and then we're going to take our screws and put them back in. And usually I would do all of this at once, but I'm going to do a full one right now so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to put our screws back in, tighten them to the amount of tightness that makes sense, which is, you know, tight enough. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bend all our wires down as much as we can, usually kind of in an S formation like this. We're going to take one of these props, we're going to put it over the ESC with the leading edge facing the back and the front, so the leading edge like this, so the prop would go like that, so that if we have a prop strike, because they all do that, if we're spinning the right way, then it will hit the leading edge, which is the thickest part of the prop. I don't think most people know that I put that much thought into putting little pieces of plastic over my ESCs, but I did, so there you have it. And we're going to take this electrical tape, and I'm going to tape it fairly tight, but not too tight, around the edge here, and I do 1.5 loops. Get my skizzers, snip, and there we have a protected ESC. So bear with me as I do that 4 times, or 3 more times. and then we will move on to something new, because this, again, is the most time-consuming portion of the build, is putting 4 of the exact same things and soldering like all these little tedious wires, which, you know, can be a pain in the butt. But
are you planning on doing van life again?
Yeah, probably this year at some point. I have I think I've been hired to do the Import Alliance events this year, like all of their drifting events for chase footage and stuff, so I'll probably van life it up. Those are all over the nation, so I'll probably do something like that. I might fly into some of them, but yeah, I'll probably van life it. My goal in the spring was to like go up north, like the northeast, and kind of, I don't know, hit up like New York and I don't know, just all those spots up there that I didn't even get near this last trip. But who knows what will happen. Any other brain busters?
Any other brain busters? You know that's one of my favorite lines.
I know, I had to use it. I had to use it.
Any more brain busters?
Are you falling asleep over there?
No, man. It's only like 10:50 or something.
Dang, it's like freaking 1:45 here. We've been on this stream for an owl hair, my dog.
I know.
We should have just fucking podcasted.
I'm gonna edit a video after this.
What? Really?
Yeah, man.
That's sick.
Got them dailies, dog.
You crazy fool. Wait, oh, what a dummy. I didn't pull off. So I've done this before. I didn't pull off this double-sided sticky portion.
Oh, yeah. I do that.
I stuck it in there, but I didn't peel off the red portion.
That's why you got that razor blade.
Yeah, fucking stab it out of there. Come here, bitch.
Do you have heat issues with the prop protectors and the tape?
No.
Shiloh wants to know.
Negative. Not at all. Not even close. We're running a 32 amp ESC with motors that don't even really drain. They don't even pull more than about 35, or sorry, any more than about 25 amps. So you're super underrated on the amp draw, especially with the Mr. Steele V2 Silks, or even the V1 Silks, because they're the same motor. They're just, the bell design is different, and they're a little more durable. The amp draw is super low. That's kind of why I used, like, why I made that motor, is so that it would be an efficient 4S motor, because everyone was going all super hardcore on the power, and they were blowing up ESCs. But with this 32 amp, I used to use a 24 amp, if you can believe that. Before the 32 amp, there was something called the 24 amp, and that's what I used for years. And before that, I was using 20 amps. Well, 30 amps technically, but before that
was 18 amps.
Yeah, before that was 18. So it's just how reliable do you want it to be? If you're running a 32 amp, you're definitely going to be the most reliable, because you're not even stressing the ESC. That's why I'm able to run D-Shot 2400 and all these badass things like Crossfire, telemetry. Not saying that that really has that big of a deal, but the response of the quad is directly related to the amount of pressure that it's under. If you're under a lot of pressure all the time, you're like demanding a lot of your aircraft, you're demanding a lot of the ESCs, usually there's going to be a failure somewhere. And if you're kind of like overrated everywhere, then you're not really ever going to have a problem. And that's why I've been flying the same quad even on 6S for the last, I don't even know. When did I do that? When I was with you. It was like almost 8-9 months ago.
Yeah.
And I haven't even changed a freaking... I changed a bell like 2 days ago because I hit a rock at like Mach 9. But that was the only time that we've dealt with anything like that.
Someone wanted to know something about like hot motors. I missed it.
So hot motors can be related to PID tuning issues. So if you have your P's too high, your motors can get hot. On 6S, that's an extreme problem. You can actually burn motors up by having your PIDs too high. On 4S, it's still an issue, but it's a lot less likely that you're going to burn a motor up unless you just crank the P's through the roof. But yeah, that's kind of... So let's move on to something new here. We've got all 4 motors and ESCs and prop protectors and everything ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and solder on our our pigtails for our video transmitter and our cameras, and then I'll build the camera and I'll show you exactly how that works. So as far as pigtails for the camera and the video transmitter, so in your Swift 2 box you're going to get something like this that has a 3-pin connector on one side and a 3-pin connector on the other. I usually just snip this thing right in the middle, and you can use one side. I always twist all of my wires to get as much interference out as possible. By twisting them, you're kind of creating this little shield around the wires, so that you're not going to get as much interference. And then once I've twisted them, I clip them to where all of the ends are the same length. Then I'm going to strip the ends here. And again, these are all little tricks that you think are minuscule or might not add up to be anything at the end of the day, but I can guarantee you that if you don't do all of these little things, you will not have as good of an experience as I'm having. As far as my aircraft not having any lines in my video, my shit just flying the way it does all the time, all of this stuff matters.
I remember before we had the nice silicone wires on everything, I used to always use a heat gun when I twisted my wires, and it would kind of just keep them all twisted together.
Yeah, that's when you had the vinyl wires.
Yeah.
So
those just suck.
Someone asked me the other day, they were like, "Yo, why doesn't Trappy make the Unify things out of?" Well, now they're made of silicone. So
yeah.
So this is the new Unify silicone wire, and this is our video transmitter that we're using, which is the 5-volt Unify, and I'll show you how to set that up in a little bit. But what you're going to do is you want to make sure that the end that plugs into the video transmitter is there, and the other end you're actually going to clip off right at the connector. So we cut that connector off. I'm going to pull this little thing off. So we have it plugged into the video transmitter. We have our naked wires now. I know that sounds scary, but just do it. And then we're going to twist this wire. This is actually moving pretty quick. It should be able to be done here in the next 30-45 minutes, hopefully. I know that sounds like a long ass time, but for building a quad from scratch, it's pretty freaking good. Especially doing it while talking and entertaining. Talking about things that are...
Are you going to use the new TBS RX? I'm guessing that's the diversity one.
Oh, the Nano Diversity? I actually think I might. I'm going to have to figure out a setup for it. I got to figure out how to set up those.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, how am I going to run these antennas and all that stuff, cleanly?
Yeah. So that's kind of my dilemma right now is, what am I going to use it? How am I going to use it? Not if, it's just how.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're talking about wires here, I don't think I've emphasized this, but if you don't already know, yellow is video, black is ground, red is power, and white is audio. So on this aircraft, we do have a microphone, and our video transmitter has a white wire. So we're going to solder on our video transmitter pigtail like this, so that you have yellow, white, red, black, and we're just going to make sure everything's soldered up. Usually ground is on the ends, power is in the middle, so there's a 5-volt out, so we have ground, 5-volt, and then we have audio in. This is coming from our camera, and we have out here, which is all filtered, and we have audio out, video out, power, and ground. So we're all set up there. We're good to go. The PDB is done. There's no more soldering involved on the PDB. The next thing that we're going to do to the PDB is we're going to plug this in, but we're not exactly going to do that just yet. I guess we can do that. We'll put the video or the flight controller on right now because this is a pretty cool portion. One thing that I don't think a lot of people even realize is there's an extra little piece of foam in the Mr. Steele kit. the longer piece of foam is actually for the feet that we'll build here in a second. That's like the final touch we'll put on at the end. But one of the little pieces of foam is actually for a windshield for the microphone. So if you cut off a little bit of tiny piece of foam and you stick it right here, right in front of the mic, then you get a little bit of a windshield. You can bend the mic down if you really want to, but you only need the majority of it to be covered. So there, that's how you do the windshield for the microphone. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our standoffs, which are 4 standoffs, and our 4 aluminum longer screws that we got in the kit. I didn't open the kit on video because I had already opened it previously, so I apologize for that, but all of the hardware and stuff comes in these little pre-cut baggies and stuff, so you'll know what's what when you get it. So we're going to go ahead and put our aluminum screw, our aluminum bolt through. It's a 2.5 mil Allen, and we're going to screw on our 4 nylon standoffs, which again I just go kind of hand tight, because if you do tighten it too much you will strip it, and that's not good. So I'm going to go ahead and put these nuggets on. And I think it's funny, I've seen a couple people that are like, you know, how tight do you tighten things, or how loose do you keep things? You want everything to be like more than snug. You don't, like, if you feel like it's snug, then like give it another quarter turn, and that's probably about as tight as you want it. So it's snug, give it another quarter turn, snug, give it another quarter turn, snug, quarter turn, snug, quarter turn.
Why aren't you using smart audio?
Because I hate how it beeps in your ear on the Unify, and I just don't care. I'm always on the same channel, and I will show you how I set up my video transmitter later. You can easily change channels and change power outputs. Not as easy as smart audio, but with audio and the Unify, since they're on the same channel, if you have smart audio hooked up with the Unify, when you arm the quad it will beep. When you disarm the quad it will beep in your ear, and I hate it, so I just don't do it. I hate it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our flight controller. So here we have the KISS V2 flight controller. We have our quad pretty much assembled. We're going to do a couple things. I'm going to move the quad out of the way real quick. Actually, I need to show you something before we do that. So we have our KISS V2 flight controller here. Now, these, like, it's a really tight fit to put this over these, put these on here. And now it's like it almost doesn't fit, kind of. And yeah, you can force it down and get it on there tight. Well, it's the reasoning, I don't know why. I think these standoffs are cut for a specific length, and I don't know why it's super tight here. I don't know the background on it, but all flight controllers have always been super tight on here. And if it's nylon, you can put it on there. Well, if it's got any tension on it and you crash hard enough, you're going to break a nylon standoff. So what we're going to do is we're going to file out some relief in the flight controller itself so that it goes on there real nicely. How you're going to do that is with the Alien kit, you're actually going to get 2 files, and one of them is going to be like this rat tail style file, and it will fit in here perfectly like this. And I will show you now what I do. I grab a little, usually I have a piece of cardboard or something, but we can use this piece of wood. Can you see what I'm doing? And I'm gonna basically just file the corner. So I'm in the hole and I'm filing away from, like, I'm going this way. I'm filing to where I'm pushing away from the corner. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna kind of waller out this hole a little bit. And we're gonna do that on all 4. And you just do it a little bit, like it doesn't require a crazy amount. And I know this sounds ghetto, but believe me, it will save you nylon standoffs at the end of the day, and it's one of those little secret tricks and tips that no one's going to tell you that will ultimately make your build better. And again, you can twist the file in your fingers while you're doing it, and it gives a more even file. And I know this is a $70 flight controller that we are taking a file to, but believe me, you will appreciate when we're done. So we've done that, we filed out the corners. This should be enough. See how it sits on there real nice and loose like? Yeah. So what we wanted is we don't want it to fit. We just don't want it to fit tight because we don't want any pressure on these nylon standoffs. Okay, so now the crucial part, and I'm gonna have to probably check online, to be honest. This is the new PDB. It has one cable that has a black and a white. Okay. If you plug these in backwards onto these flight controller ports, it will fry the flight controller and all 4 ESCs. So please listen when I do this. I check this every time. I'm going to check it right now. If you go to impulserc.com, which I'm going to go to, impulserc.com, I'm going to click Mr. Steele Alien PDB, and in the pictures there's actually a little thing that says port 1 of PDB must be plugged into FC port 1. If you're talking about KISS V2, it's the port 1 on the board, which, oh wait, hold on, it's color coded now. Sorry, let me just go ahead and find the color coded portion. KISS V2, white cable goes to port 2. So white cable on here on the PDB goes to port 2 on the FC. And if you look on the side of these ports, it'll say PDB serial 3 or serial 1. Sorry, so we're going to be plugging into PDB and serial 1. White cable on KISS V2, sorry, which is what this is, the white cable goes to SER1. So we're on KISS V2, and how you can tell is the corners are more notchy on the KISS V2 versus KISS V1 is more rounded. So we're KISS V2, white is going to go to SER1, which is this port. Now I know that sounds really confusing, just triple, double, quadruple check before you fully commit. And then the black cable is going to go to PDB, I'm pretty sure. There's no other way to do it, so that's what we're going to do. Black cable to PDB.
Yeah, that's a pretty crucial.
It is definitely crucial.
Pretty crucial thing.
Do not fuck this up.
I think I've only seen you do it that one time.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need to check it. No way. Poof! Fucking exploded.
Yeah, and we were like rushing to get out like the door.
KISS V2, white cable goes to SER1. Okay, we're KISS V2, white cable SER1, black cable to PDB. Okay, we're good. I'm just gonna, So you're using the ports on the KISS V2 that are on the bottom. You don't use this top SER3. And you just want to, I always twist everything, like I said. I just twisted it. I put it on here. I'm just going to kind of daintily place it there because we do need to put the receiver on. And I'm going to go ahead and tin the receiver pins, which are the 3 with the holes right here on the top of the PDB. So 3 with the holes, we're going to tin those. And we're going to chill like this for a second. And I'm going to go ahead and build the camera and the FC and the video transmitter, and we're going to put it all together very shortly. So we put the KISS FC on, we followed out the holes. If you hold the KISS FC upside down like this, with the ports on the bottom, it's straight in, but it's upside down. See, what I did, I held the thing like this when I messed it up that one day, and they were straight in, and I was like, oh, it's good. No, upside down, ports up, and it goes straight in like this. White into SER1, black into PDB. Don't fuck that up. I cannot emphasize that enough. So we're going to put that here. We're going to set this aside, and I'm going to build the camera box. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next we have our camera, and we have our little camera plate, and we have our little camera plastic pieces, and we have our camera rubbers. And
Sean wants to know, where is this one going to be for sale at?
You're going to have to DM me on freaking Instagram if you want this one. They literally go so quickly that I just resorted to people DMing me on Instagram. I do check all of my unread messages, so no excuses, my dog. No excuses.
That's the Runcam Swift there?
This is a Swift 2.
So that's not a CMOS cam. That's a CCD cam.
That is a CCD. I prefer CCD with the Dominator V2, and I just like the way CCD flies. So this is a Runcam Swift 2 with a 2.5mm lens. I know this is different than the GoPro lens, but it has a very similar field of view, and honestly, there's not really much of a difference. Everyone knows that the GoPro lens was so good, so people just copied it. So yeah, this is the 2.5mm from Runcam, and this is a Runcam Swift V2, which does have a mic, and it has a 5-pin port and a 2-pin port, and it's got 2 Phillips head screws in the back, which I'm going to take these Phillips head screws out, and we're going to install the little camera plate, which on the Alien is very specific, and this is kind of what makes the Alien cool, is the fact that the camera plate holds everything in the right angle all the time. So we're going to take those screws out, but we still need the back plate. Make sure when you take it out that this little piece of silicone right here is not like stuck onto here or like falls out. You want to make sure that's there. It kind of holds the camera in place so that you don't get any vibrations. There is a microphone in there, just don't worry about it. So there are 2 screws that come with the kit that are longer, and they're Allen head 1.5mm, and they will fit in the back of this camera. And then there's also these little rubber condominium looking things, these little rubber nuggets. So what we're gonna do is we'll put there's a little carbon plate here. What we want to do is we want to double the carbon plate up with the back of our Runcam, so that the little port here is in this hole, so that we have the top of the plate. It's going to look like this. So we have, let me put this other screw in here so you can see. I know this sounds really confusing, but it's not. The little L-shaped things on the top, this is the hole cut out for the back of the camera. It's going to go in like this. Just remember that. Okay, so now on the back side of this guy, we're going to put one little rubber condominium on each screw. And what this does is it kind of gives you like this kind of like a pressure onto the camera that you don't normally get, because it's kind of squeezing down the rubber. I dropped one, so I'm gonna have to grab another one. There's a bunch of extra in there, like in the kit. So anyways, so this goes like this with a rubber piece on the inside of the camera plate. And we're gonna grab our 1.5mm Allen, and we're gonna screw this down. Again, snug, quarter turn, snug, snug, quarter turn. You don't want to strip this out, it is plastic. Okay, snug and quarter turn, okay? So we're good on that front. Now what we need to do is we need to install these little plastic L-looking brackets. Now you want to install them to where the camera, they're like away from the camera, but the outside has it's like creates a 90-degree angle. So the little inside L-cut piece sits like this, and there's 2 of them. And you're going to use 2 of those long screws that come with the kit as well. The same screw that you used. The same screw that you used to screw in the back of the camera. It's the same exact screw. It's like a long 1.5mm Allen. So we're going to go ahead and screw those in. And there's a little dowel hole thing that kind of locks it in place. Have you ever built an Alien, Eric?
Yeah, I did a 6-inch Alien.
Yeah. Did you hate it? Did you like it? What was your take on it?
It was pretty quick to build.
Yeah, they're actually like, it seems like a lot of work, and other frames seem simpler, but like those bullshit camera mounts where they just like kind of friction hold into place are so bad. You like touch the ground and all of a sudden your camera's at like a 45-degree angle and you're like, oh, I'm going Mach 9, what the fuck? Alright, so we've got this camera situation looking like this. We got our plates on there, we're good to go. We're about to attach our K-plate. So I pulled out of the little Swift thing, the little Swift bag of tools, or bag of whatever you get, little hardware, and I got these little tiny screws. There's like smaller screws in this, and then there's some longer screws in this. These are kind of the middle of the road screws. So yeah, those. I got 2 of those, and we're gonna put those in the sides of the K plates once we get the K plates on. What we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out where the heck these K plates go, and I'm gonna count 5 clicks from the top because that'll be 25 degrees. And I'm gonna use these screws, which are a little bit fatter. They're 2 mil. So we're 5 in, and I'm gonna run that through there. And my fingers like cramping because I'm holding it in the weirdest position ever. And you just want to make sure that the K plate is set up to where it's gonna work. I don't know how to explain it. It'll make more sense when you're holding it in your hands, but basically I actually think I put it on upside down. Did I? Totally put it on upside down. Look at me. Look at me getting all fancy.
You just built like 10 of those things and.
No, I didn't put it on upside down. I lied. I did not put it on upside down. I did build 10 of them, and they were like, it was super confusing for the first 5, even though they were all being built at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to put my other K plate on. Bear with me. It's kind of a piece of, it's kind of a work of art to get all of this situated. Oh God. Sometimes you just gotta put it all on and just twist and pray. You know what I mean? That twist and pray? You know about the twist and pray, Eric?
That twist and pray. I know about the plug in and pray, twist and pray.
So on the K plate, there's this little weird U-joint. I'm not actually 100% sure what happens with that U-joint, but I know that when you put these little screws in, that they sit at the back of the U-joint if the camera lens is the front. That doesn't make sense at all. And it also goes into the center screw hole on the side of the Swift too. So screw hole, yeah, that's kind of how it looks when it's all done. And I leave the screws on here a little bit loose because it makes install a little bit easier. And as far as the install is concerned, I like to leave this pigtail right here in. So we're going to plug this pigtail in now. And we're also going to take our 3-pin pigtail, which I know the back of this is actually a 5-pin pigtail, but the 3-pin pigtail works, and that I always use it. And you put it on the left side of the camera. It's the same pin out. I just use the 3-pin one for some reason. I don't know why. I've just always used 3-pin ones. And then you plug your camera in, and you make sure you're not pinching wires, and you can just kind of set the K plates down inside there, and you're good to go. You got your K plates and stuff already set down like that. All right.
Spud Nick wants to know, is there something you see in the FPV community that you wish they would stop doing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, but I don't really know if it could change. I guess the thing is like, if you can't fly and you can't build, why are you talking shit? I guess that's kind of the gist of it. That's, yeah.
Kind of like his name too, Spud, and his name's Nick.
Spudnik.
You know what's funny is that a lot of people don't know. Remember what I was thinking about calling my motors the Spudniks, and we were gonna make a potato logo.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. And the next thing is gonna be, let's go ahead and do the receiver, because it's the one thing that's gonna be left that we put back here on the bottom of the Alien. So we'll set this here. Let me get a little drink of water real quick.
How many screen protectors are supposed to be in the ETHIX kit for the QX7 radio?
Oh, 1.
Just 1, yeah.
Okay.
You got 2.
You got
Good.
Yeah, you got
Yeah, you got hooked up.
Alright, so this is the Unify Pro, and we're going to make this thing a little bit more bulletproof, for my setup anyways. This is how I make my setups kind of psyched. I always cut if there's anything over the button, I always cut the excess heat shrink away, because if it heats up and it touches the button, it can give you issues, not like in a bad way, but it can like cause your video transmitter to be in a certain state that you don't want it to be. Okay, so what I do to make these a little bit more bulletproof, because this is a UFL connector and it's usually not the best in the world and can rip off, is I take a zip tie, and I know this is, you're not seeing what I'm doing at the moment, but you will shortly. I take a zip tie and I pull the UFL connector to a 90-degree angle like this, and I zip tie it tight just next to the connector. Alright, so when we're done, you can slide the zip tie over, and it's between the lights and the button, and it's not super tight, but it's tight enough to hold this from pulling off, so you don't have to worry about the UFL connector ever pulling off, because you've got it relief strapped with a zip tie. And then you bend the little wire like this, and you're good to go. I know some fucking expert out there is gonna say, yeah, well, fuck you, and I've been doing it for 4 years.
Or they're gonna tell you to hot glue it.
And I've been fucking flying everywhere, all over the world with no issues, so calm down, smart expert person. So that's how we're gonna set it up like this. We're not gonna do anything different. It's gonna give us some relief. We're gonna go ahead and take our antenna, make sure we have SMA and SMA, or RPSMA and RPSMA. We want a male and a female, obviously, unless you're not hetero, which is perfectly normal and fine, but in this instance we need it to be hetero. We're going to take our open-ended 8mm, and we're going to, I mean, you don't have to do this, but I'm going
to. Crank
it
down.
Yeah, you don't want this shit coming off. So I'm going to crank it. Not crank it, but like I said, snug and then a little bit extra. Okay, so we've snugged that. Now this is one thing that I do and I've started to do recently, and you don't have to do it, but like I said, I've been doing this a while and all this stuff works for me. So this is the Mr. Steele build from scratch with me building it for you. I take a little bit.
What do you do? Tape that thing up?
I take a little bit of tape and I tape it. Now why do I tape it, you ask? Well, one, it's going to be attached to the top. Jesus Christ, cat. It's fucking spazzing out. I tape it so that there's no metal exposed, because we are going to touch this to the top carbon on our top plate, and sometimes you can have weird grounding issues with carbon and metal touching, especially on your video transmitting side. So to alleviate all of that, I just tape all of the metal, and this is how it looks. Alright, so what we're going to do next is, I know I said I was going to do the receiver, but we're already kind of on the way, so I'm going to do the video transmitter. We're going to take our top plate, we're going to take our video transmitter, and we're going to make the most sought after and useful thing that I think I have gifted to the FPV world, which is the whole antenna out the back, kind of cocked up with this little thing. Like that is, I'm taking credit for that, because I did that way before anybody even knew that was a thing. And that's why the Alien is like got the little cutout in the back. It's, yeah, I don't know. If I'm gonna take credit for anything, I'm gonna take credit for fucking, yeah, that. Alright, so we're gonna take our top plate, which is...
Remember when like everybody would run those like extension wires out the top and just like...
So dumb. So here's our top plate, right? Doesn't matter, it's ambidextrous, doesn't give a shit. We're gonna take a piece of wrap strap, which comes in the kit. This is, you can get it at TBS. There's very few things out there that are like this, that are actually wrap strap. There's a lot of copies. This one is, this is how it looks.
And it's blue.
If you want the real thing, go to TBS. I made Trappy find the real thing and order it. It's like $6 for a wrap, like for a pack of 3 or something. Like it comes in something like that. Anyways, you want a 2, 4, 6 section of a 6 count section, and we're gonna poke it through these little holes right here, and it makes life a lot easier if you have a little screwdriver or an Allen key, especially a 1.5, to pull it through. This is another slightly time-consuming portion, but you'll get it when I'm done. So I'm going to pull it all the way through except for one, alright? So we're going to be looking like this, and then I'm going to feed it back through the other little tiny hole in the back of the alien frame. These are not intended for this. I think it's just a lightweight or a looks portion. And yeah, so we're good there. And that's what it's going to look like. It comes through the back and the very back, and it's going to look like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my video transmitting antenna, and I'm going to feed it. I'm going to basically wrap strap it, and this is easier done than said. I'm going to wrap strap it to where it's down like that, okay? So it's wrap strapped there. Now I'm going to take another, like 5 or 6 segment piece, and I'm going to run it through the big portion on the back of the antenna, or on the back of the top plate, sorry. And I'm going to grab my 1.5, and this I've been doing a while, so if I make it look easy, you can also run the antenna back and run a thinner portion through here so it's easier. But you go through and you kind of grasp the tip and then pull it through. So yeah, so now we have 2 wrap straps like this, right? And then we're going to pull the antenna back as pretty much as far as it'll go, and we're going to bend it up, and we're going to make sure the video transmitter is button up. So this is the piece that's down, little pads down, button up, and we're going to take a zip tie, which I should have some. Okay, let me grab one. We're going to take a zip tie and run it through the same portion. Actually, was this the conversation I was having with you earlier, Eric? Like, I can show people how to build this to a T, and it still won't be right?
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, so I wrapped a zip tie around there as well.
I'm trying to find the, I'm trying to see if I could actually post a link
to
on here so people can,
So we don't need this. I think it's a 5 portion for the rear one and then the 6 for the front. Okay, so I have a zip tie and 2 sets of wrap straps. Now, why do I overkill that like that? Because this antenna is going to hit stuff, always, always. I've never broken an antenna, and I've never broken an SMA or anything. This bends with the wrap strap. If the zip tie breaks, it's still attached. It's not going to rip out. The wrap strap holds it in, so that's why I do it with wrap strap and a zip tie. The wrap strap is there to give a little bit of flex, and the zip tie is there just for sheer brute force, okay? Now, one other thing is I'm going to take a piece of heat shrink, a small piece of heat shrink, probably a lot smaller than this, probably about this size actually. So, or sorry, not heat shrink, a piece of double-sided sticky tape, and I'm going to stick it to the bottom of the top plate like this, okay? And it's going to be on, if you're looking at it from your side, it's going to be on your left, all right? Now I'm going to take another piece of wrap strap. Again, I've been doing this a while, guys.
People want to know why you're using that instead of a zip tie. Oh shit.
Dang, you just broke something. Because this is stretchy, and zip ties do not give, and when they're in the cold weather, they break. And stretchy stuff is always the way to go when you're talking about moving things that are crashing and constantly breaking, constantly in the state of movement. All of movement and movement go together really well. Movement and non-movement do not go together well. If you have ever dealt with anything where you've hard mounted anything, I guarantee you it broke something else if it didn't break the thing that you hard mounted it. So this is how this goes. You got one zip tie or one wrap strap around the outside, one wrap strap here. I'm isolating it from the carbon with a piece of double-sided sticky tape. There we go. There's the top plate pretty much done. Now all we have to do is get one of those things that I don't have, one of those rubber nuggets that I just actually legitimately don't have for some odd reason. God dang it, I knew I wasn't going to have one of those. Give me a second. Oh God. That is one thing that I do need to show you.
Digging deep into the supplies.
For sure. Okay, here we go. There is one of those pieces of crap. You know what I'm talking about?
What's up?
You know what I'm talking about?
No. Plastic piece?
It's the rubber thing that goes on the top. That holds the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, why don't I have one? What is happening?
I mean, doesn't it come with the whole thing?
It comes with the kit, but I think I used it on something else, or I cut it, or something happened to it. It disappeared. Or it might be over here and I just can't see it because I'm blind and I'll find it later. Alright, well, it doesn't really matter. It's super simple to put on. It's literally just a piece of rubber that is cut out specifically for this frame. And I cut the back of it and I cut the front triangle off. I'll try to find one at the end so you can see what I'm talking about. It's like a finishing touch thing. But we have the top plate here, and I'm just going to go ahead and set that aside and we'll do the receiver now. So, as far as the receiver is concerned, we have this, which is our our Nano Crossfire receiver. Now this thing is super tiny, and I've already attached the antenna. It's a UFL antenna. So we attach the antenna. This is our, not an Immortal T, but this is the stock antenna that comes with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put it into my little vicey grip thing here, and I'm going to tin it up, and I'm going to attach 4 wires to it. And I don't even know if I remember the pin out on it, but I think I do. So I think we're going to be okay. So fill all these little holes with solder. I'm only using the 4 on the back, so again.
People keep wanting to know what time it is over there. It's like almost, what, 2 o'clock?
It's 2:30, yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
I stay up till like 4 every night, so I still got hours to go, my dog. Okay, so for the receiver, we need a white wire, we need a red wire, we need a yellow wire, and we need a black wire for this particular setup. And we're just going to direct solder all of these, and we have our heat shrink here. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's ground, 5 volt RX, and then the other RX. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick this up from the bottom here. Can you even see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's not like super zoomed in, but I get it.
Yeah. So.
But there's little holes on that PCB board that you can put the wire straight through from the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, they're through hole. So ground, and then yellow is our. So the ground one. Check the online, like pinout.
Wiring diagram.
Yeah, but the ground is the square pin on the end, and then I think it's 5 volt next to it. So if we really want to make sure, we just go over here and go to Google and type in Team Black Sheep Nano Crossfire RX, and then that will come up. We'll come up with the Nano Crossfire RX. We go onto their website and it says Quick Start Guide, and we click that. We go down, and then if you scroll about halfway down, it says, oh, there it is, ground, 5 volt, channel 1, channel 2. So we have ground, 5 volt, channel 1, and channel 2, which is our white wire, which is on the end. and that's actually going to be for UARTs. If you want to run, or not UARTs, what are those things called? Lewis scripts. If you want to run Lewis scripts, I set that up on these quads. I don't personally use them, but it's literally one extra wire, and if you wanted to, you could. So I just
Marina wants to know, does the nano crossfire connect to the crossfire module in the Tyrannus, or can it be bound directly to Tyrannus without the module? No, you need the crossfire module.
Yes.
In order for it to work.
Yes, you do need the Crossfire module. So, and why I use Crossfire is, one, I really like the ability to be able to go as far as I want to go, because this is 900 megahertz. We're talking a lower frequency. You have output power of up to 2 watts if you run the big Crossfire, and that's a lot of power. And yeah, I just prefer having the ability to go farther or not have to worry about my RC link, where with I actually, you know, FR Sky is really good. Like, I didn't really have too many issues with FR Sky. I rarely had fail safes, and if I did, it was like, you know, I knew it was coming. So, you know, I'm not going to complain about FR Sky's link. However, they don't always play by the rules. I feel like some of their stuff's a little, like, might not be legit, but at the same time, what actually is legit? So here's what we have. We have our twisted wires, we have our antenna, and we have our heat shrink. And I'm going to just shrink this up. I have 10 to the ends of the wire there. So we're going to solder that to the FC, and I'll show you that once I heat shrink this. And again, the heat shrink method is twist and don't hold too much heat in one area too long. And then I also, when it's hot, I pinch the ends to make everything kind of waterproof, because you pinch the ends and it almost creates a seal on the end. Now, just remember that the bind button is right behind the UFL connector, so that is something to keep in mind when we are dealing with this receiver here. Now, one thing that I do that I've just started to do recently is I actually take, I always do this, but this is how I do it now. I take a piece of foam, an extra piece of foam that I got with my kit, and I chop the end of it. I chop it in half so that the, wow, this is the dullest razor blade known to man. I'm like having to saw through this stuff.
Dude, I know what you're doing, but I have like this roll of tape that I got that's just foam like that. That's already like in half, and I use that as a little sponge for the receiver. But yeah, I got tired of sawing them in half, so I started just buying the tape already like cut to size.
Let me show you what a new razor blade will do as I cut my whole hand off. Check this out. Oh man, this made nice work of that. So I cut it in half, the sticky part's on the bottom. I take the sticky and I stick it to the bottom of the receiver. Now, why do I do this? One, it isolates the receiver from the carbon fiber frame, because we are going to double-sided sticky tape it, or not double-sided sticky tape, we're going to tape it down. And I just feel like the more isolation you can get from the carbon, the better, so that's why I do it. If you want to argue, then go build your own quads your own way and figure out the hard way, because, you know, I never have any issues, and I'm just trying to show you guys how I do it, because I feel like a lot of people ask, and I've never done one of these where I like talk you through the build, because it's a long process. But if you're doing it for the first time, you're probably thanking me for making this video, because it's like step by step, basically everything to do. Now, the soldering thing, I make it look really easy because I've been doing it since I was like 10 years old. So don't think that if you've never soldered before, you're just going to be a master. But yeah, take that into account, I guess, when you're building. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this white wire here, and we're going to solder it to the top RX LM pad, and I will show you that when I'm done here. Actually, we'll do that last because it's kind of a pain in the butt. We're gonna go.
Which pad is that? The LN pad? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's a big pad, like right in front of the 5-volt pad on the KISS V2.
And that's for running the Lua strips?
Yeah. Come on now. Yeah, there we go. So now I'm gonna solder this. Okay, good. Okay, 5-volt pad, and yeah, it should look like that when you're done. So it's this 5-volt, or it's, sorry, not a 5-volt pad, it's the pad right in front of all of the RX 5-volt and ground on the actual KISS V2.
Is that like right next to the gyro right there or something?
Yep, it's the big pad right next to the 3.3 volt pad. It's literally to the left.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run the wires under the FC, and I'm going to put the FC down, and we're going to tighten the FC down because there's no reason not to. So we got these little 5.5 millimeter nuts here. You can use nylon nuts, which I actually do on my own personal quads, but this is the ones that came with this kit because I don't know why Impulse always gives you these little aluminum nuts.
No gummies or like little rubber pieces or anything?
I sometimes do on my own personal stuff, mainly to space the flight controller up, but on KISS V2 you don't need it. You don't need any soft mount or anything like that. There's a point in time where everyone was like, oh, put some gummies under there, it'll fucking save you and you won't get any jello. Well, you don't really have jello with KISS V2, so I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's not a common thing, and it's more.
What do you think they changed in KISS V2 that makes it so much better?
I think
just that it's running an F7.
I think it's an F7, and fucking Felix is a genius. I don't know. So I actually need to.
Yeah, look at that little tool right there, bro.
Yeah, that's a Hobby King tool, my dude. So just make sure when you run this situation down that the flight controller sits flush on the bottom and you're not like pinching anything, you know? You know what I mean?
What PID and gyro loop do you run on that board?
The factory one? I don't know. Whatever it comes with. I don't change any of that stuff. It's 1,000, I think, is the PID loop, or the loop time. 1,000, I don't even know, honestly. I just, whatever it comes with. I think someone's gonna say, I thought you were, like, professional or whatever. You change everything.
I like the voices you make for everybody.
It's a pretty common voice you hear from freaking nerds getting all antsy about how their shit works. Yeah, goobers trying to tell me how to live. Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, are you still gonna plan to keep continuing the How to FPV series?
Yes, totally. This is part of it. I just didn't name it How to FPV. The next build is actually, or the next video is actually like a 5-inch and understanding why and what to buy and my personal opinion on why I think buying something that I know well is not necessarily the best route, but the easiest route. Like building this, watching me build this, and buying the parts and building it yourself, yeah, it helps me out and whatever. I don't pocket crazy amounts of money from doing this stuff, but at the end of the day, there's like someone there that will physically help you do all of this. There's no one on the internet that will give you all of their secrets. I have no secrets. This is it. I'm step by step building you the exact aircraft that I would fly. I give you my PIDs, I gave you my radio setup, I gave you my goggles setup, everything. Like, I can give someone my exact gear and let them go do whatever they want to do with it. At the end of the day, they're not like me. They don't fly like me. It's all personal. Like, you can have all the best gear in the world. It's not going to make you a better pilot, but it will make you a better pilot quicker, because if you have shitty gear and you're trying to, fly crappy gear, or gear that no one has any input on, or no one's going to help you build, or you don't know how to set it up and actually get in the air, then that's, at the end of the day, that's not how you're not going to get in the air that way, and you're not going to have people trying to be your friend help you do that. So we've tightened down the flight controller. We have our receiver back here. We have our foam. I'm just going to put it right in the middle of this X, and I'm going to, like, tape it down. Sorry, I can't do it. Nothing crazy.
This one dude right here said that my vlog for tomorrow is just going to be me sleeping at the shop because of the late night build.
That is not true, because you're in California, so you're
yeah, I'm totally fine.
Completely on a different time. So I do like one and a half spins, my dude. With that roll. Okay. So we are literally like good to go right now. This is the quad. We have the top plate all set up. I'm gonna go ahead and put the standoffs in. I do all this, take a little 6mm, 2.5mm Allen. It's a 6mm bolt, but it's 2.5mm Allen screw. And I'm just gonna tighten all of these by hand for now until we get everything all set up.
There's a question that they want to know if the series will go as far as to teach us how to approach becoming a professional.
I've talked about that many times. I got 400 something videos, my dogs. Define a professional. Give me some questions about what makes a professional, and I will answer them accordingly. This is kind of a Q&A and a build video at the same time. So you're getting a little bit of both. Does anybody have any questions, or are they just going to go silent?
I'm kind of filtering through some over here. EMS Web's in here. Looks like Paul's in here.
Damn, I wonder if that's Paul or Thomas. It's probably Paul. Thomas ain't got time for this. He's driving around looking for chicks.
It's probably true. This guy wants to know if that's Konasti talking.
It is.
Have you bought a house yet?
Nope. I've looked at probably 65 of them, and it's hard finding a good-ass house. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in no rush to, like, I don't have any pertinent things to push in.
Go ahead. They're saying getting paid to fly is professional. That's what they're talking about.
Alright, well, I got two things for you after I explain one thing really quickly. Okay, so on this build, if you're looking at the front of the quad where you put the box in for the camera itself, the camera box, you need to make sure the standoffs have they're like hexagonal. You need to make sure the square part is to the carbon on both sides. If you try to tighten it down and the square part, or at least a flat side, is not on the carbon for the camera box, it will break the carbon and it won't fit correctly. So you just make sure, tighten it by hand, and get everything to where there's a flat side on the actual camera box itself. Once you get a flat side there, kind of squeeze it with your fingers so that it's not going to twist, and then tighten it from the bottom, and you will have a good day that way. Okay, so about professional flying. There's two types of professionals when you're talking about mini quads, or just drones in general. And, well, I guess in the world these days, there's two types of professionals. There's the people that fly mini quads, that fly them, and they fly them on jobs. So they fly them for Red Bull, or they fly them for an influencer, or they fly them for GoPro. They make money on the side by doing jobs to fly a mini quad. That's one type of professional. Then there's the type of professional that you have a sponsorship, and you are a sponsored pilot that puts you in this category of being quote-unquote so good that you are a professional to the community, which doesn't mean you get paid, but it can. And then there's a professional that is like someone that's flying this stuff and might have a deal with a company that is doing some endorsement where, you know, they have enough of a following, they have enough of a clout in the industry or in the hobby that people really like what they're doing, and they have something that, you know, they can really give back to the community by the knowledge or by something that they're doing, and they brand a product and ultimately make royalties off of that product. That is also considered a quote-unquote professional. Now, I do all of those things. I didn't intend on doing those things when I started flying mini quads. I started doing jobs with GoPro and started making money that way. Then at some point I started realizing that I was selling thousands and thousands of dollars of these products for these people, and they probably should pay me as like a sponsored pilot. So then I asked for compensation based on like salesmen as for these companies, which I don't go out of my way to push any of them. And then there's to a point now where I go and I make my own company that I design products and stuff for, you know, me, what I think I would use in the industry or use in the hobby, what I think is missing, and that's what ETHIX is. So there's multiple levels of like professional. There's a lot of professional pilots out there, and why am I air quoting? Because there's a lot of pro pilots out there that don't actually make any money. They're just considered pro pilots because they're good pilots. There's a lot less of them now because I feel like a lot of them have quit, but that's kind of what you're talking about. So rant over, and we will go ahead and mount the top plate. And actually, you know what? This is the most crucial portion. Before we mount the top plate, I need to zip tie this down, which I'll have to fucking grab another zip tie. Jeez. So this is like literally the most crucial part of this build. So the antenna mount, and also making sure that this doesn't rip off. So we're taking this piece, which is our XT60 connection. I know we have some relief here, but we're also going to relief on this standoff here, which is the rear left 3/4 standoff, I guess. And we're just going to kind of tighten it down to where our XT60 is. What is that, positive or negative? I can't even tell. Negative forward. And we're just going to kind of set it like that, zip tie it down, and that's going to add some relief when you're pulling the battery on and off, and it's not going to break, okay? And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our antenna mount. Now this is something that I do custom, and you will need 2 pieces of heat shrink that will fit over 2 small zip ties like this. As you can see, this is like about the size of the heat shrink. A little tiny zip tie fits in there. This is a 100mm zip tie, and it's about 2mm wide. And this heat shrink is actually cut. One piece is cut to 85mm, and one piece is cut to about 95mm. So we're going to take the 95mm piece, which is the longer piece, obviously, and we're going to run it on the zip tie, or yeah, on the zip tie itself. And we're going to take our antenna and we're going to run it up through the bottom of this. Now, what am I doing, you may ask? I'm actually running the zip tie up, and we're going to actually cover this antenna. And you don't need the 95mm piece, I don't think, actually. You can run with a smaller one. You can probably run with an 85mm piece. What you want, sorry, this is kind of hard to really show you. What you want is you want this little thin piece sticking out the bottom, but you want it to end up right above the base of the clippy part of the zip tie. And then we're going to run our antenna up parallel with the zip tie, and we're going to heat shrink over it. So we're going to kind of line it all up. I'm going to slip the heat shrink over with the antenna inside, making sure everything's kosher in there. And we're going to end up with something like this, which is where the little thin piece is sticking out at a 90-degree angle at the base of the zip tie, and we have the heat shrink and the antenna wrapped all the way up. I'm going to shrink this up and we'll see how it looks.
There's a guy in here that's saying that his KISS FC doesn't get detected by his computer.
Yeah.
Could that maybe be like he needs to get another driver or something?
I mean, depends on the FC, it depends on the computer, it depends on the GUI. It's a lot of things. That's like asking somebody if their PC doesn't work. Give me more information. This is how you're going to end up. I cut the end of the zip tie off because we have you can see the tip of the element of our antenna poking out. You don't want to cut anything off the element, so make sure if you're going to cut any excess off that you haven't cut any of the antenna itself. So we're good. We have that part of the antenna, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the excess antenna portion and I'm going to feed it back under our little piece of whatever that is, piece of electrical tape. And then I'm going to take another zip tie and I'm actually going to pre-zip it a little bit to make my life easier. And I'm going to flip it to where it's like in this orientation. I know this is extremely complex for zip ties, but bear with me. And I'm going to zip tie it down to the base of our antenna situation, like this, okay? So it's on the inside of the quad, the antenna is poking out like this. We have this other antenna on the standoff, and this is on the rear right standoff. Now we have our little black ground plane right here, right? We're going to take our other piece of heat shrink, we're just going to kind of measure it up, see how much we need, see if we need much at all. We probably don't need much at all. This piece will work perfectly. I'm going to slip that over the antenna and the zip tie. Alright, I'm going to shrink that down. Okay, so now we have an antenna situation that looks like this. And I'm actually going to clip off the excess of that. And there's a little tiny piece of antenna sticking out the edge, so I'm going to cut off a little tiny piece of heat shrink and just cover the tip, because I don't like the way it's exposed like that. That is a very fragile, thing. So I'm going to cut that little tip off and cover it up. And then the one last thing that you do is you take one more zip tie and you zip tie it at the top of the standoff so that it doesn't go anywhere. And
that proper polarization.
Yeah, that's full immortal L, my dogs. So that is an immortal L, and usually I'll heat it up and kind of bend it back like that. And you're never going to chop anything. I've never chopped an antenna like this, ever. So I'm sure someone else, if you flew a quad into it, you could chop it, but very rarely are you going to actually chop anything. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I need to configure everything. We need to set up the video transmitter, we need to set up the camera, we need to set up the flight controller, we need to set up our binding of our radio to it and everything. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to set up all of this at once, and I know this is going to be extremely confusing, but since I did 10 of these, I'm pretty good at doing it all at once. Multitasking, because it takes a certain amount of time to do some things, and it takes other times to do other things. So what I'm going to do is there's a lot of OSD bullshit on our camera, so that's why I left our little OSD thing on there. I'm going to plug this guy in here, which is our little OSD board that comes with the run cam. I'm going to actually take our video transmitter and I'm going to plug him in right here, but we're not fully assembled yet. I'm just going to leave it all kind of open like this, right? I'm going to take my little mini screen here. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to take my USB port. We're going to plug it into the FC here. and I'm going to go into my KISS GUI, and I have the latest version of the KISS stuff, so I'm activating my FC right now. I know you can't see this, but just kind of bear with me as I'm doing it, because you'll... So I'm activating my FC. I'll put link in the description to all of this stuff. So I'm going to just basically update my FC. So I'm going to go to FC Flasher. I'm going to go to select Remote Firmware. I'm going to make sure that the flight controller is KISS V2, because that's what we're flying right here. And I'm going to say, I want to fly RC36C. Okay, that's the stable version. And I'm going to say download firmware, and I'm going to say flash firmware. Okay, so we now are flashing RC36C onto this particular flight controller right here. Okay, we're 20% done. Give it a second. Alright, so we've flashed our FC firmware. Now we need to activate it. And I need to go to Restore. And I'm going to take my KISS FC 4S stuff, which is V2. Here we go. That'll work. Okay, so I've got my KISS FC V2 or all my PIDs and stuff flashed on there, and we are good to go on that. I disconnect, reconnect just to make sure everything's still there, and yeah, we're good to go now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave this plugged in. I'm connected to the FC. I'm going to take a battery, and I'm going to plug it in. So this is the moment of truth. We have made sure that everything is, plugged in correctly.
The moment of truth, and you grab a big ass battery.
Yeah, we want to make sure everything's plugged in. I don't have a smoke stopper. I'm actually going to unplug this in case something goes wrong. I highly doubt something will, but me saying that just now probably is going to make something go wrong. We just want to go over all of our connections, make sure all of our positives are to positives, make sure all of our negatives are to negatives, and yeah. And yeah, we got positive to positive here. We got all of our ground, 5 volt, ground, 5 volt audio output. We plugged our FC in correctly. We got UART 1, 5 volt ground. Moment of truth, live on the internet. Let's see if something blows up.
Hey, see how your little screen gets that green line?
Yeah.
Mine does that too. I don't know what that is.
Alright, so we're good. Nothing exploded. We're good to go. I did a good job, apparently. Our VTX is good. I'm going to go ahead and re-plug in back to the computer. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the ESC flasher. I'm going to say, I know what I'm doing. My propellers are off. I'm going to go to select remote firmware here. I'm going to go to make sure that my ESC type is KISS32. You can flash 25 amp ESC firmware on here, and tell me how I know. It doesn't like it. And what we're going to do is I'm going to do 121A beep, because I hate the voice. I don't hate the voice itself. I hate how it moves when the voice is activated, so I like the beep. So I'm going to use 121A beep, which is a stable version. I'm going to say download firmware, and I'm going to say flash firmware. Okay? So the firmware is now flashing. It said disarmed. It's flashing. While we're in here, we can, this is the default channel. I don't know what channel it is, but I think it's on like, I don't even know. Let's see what channel. Okay, there we go. It's on like Fat Shark 7 for some odd reason. I'm pretty sure if you hold up on the run cam, it brings you into their little thing, and you can clear all of their stupid things in here. And you can turn off all of the OSD bullshit. Once you've turned all of that off, you hit enter, and it's good to go. So our FC is good. Now while all that's flashing and our camera is now good to go, we can unplug this because we don't need it anymore. Wow, I'm going to break it by unplugging it. Jesus Christ. We're going to unlock our video transmitter. So how we're going to do that is we're going to hold this button down once till the blue light comes on. Sorry, I can't do that with one hand. Hold down the button until the blue light comes on. Hold down the button until the blue light comes on again. Hold down the button until 20 seconds from now the blue light is going to flash. So you got to hold this baby down for a long period of time. And our ESCs are done flashing, so I need to take them off and do one more thing. And we should be good to go here. Okay, so the VTX is now unlocked. We have access to changing power if we want. It flashed, so the VTX is unlocked. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the ESCs. I'm going to unplug the FC. This is just like common practice for me now. Plug back in the FC, connect to the connect to the GUI. It may connect, it may not. Sometimes it gets all finicky with me. Plug in. Sometimes I have to like reboot. Okay, it didn't. Okay, we just had to wait. Okay, we're good. We're connected again. I'm gonna actually turn. I'm gonna turn back on the quad. I'm gonna go to where it says ESC flasher again, and I'm gonna go. Yeah. Okay, I know what I'm doing, and I'm gonna reverse. I think it's 2 and 4. I'm not 100% sure. We will find out very shortly. Okay, so the one thing that you can do, we're going to unplug this, is now we can bind our Crossfire receiver. Now, how are we going to do that when we can't see the bind button? Well, I will show you. So we've turned on our Crossfire. Okay, switch warning, shut up. All my switches are good. Okay, so we're good here. I'm on 2.88, which is the newest Crossfire firmware at this particular moment in time. I'm going to go down to where it says bind. I'm going to hit over. It's binding now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 2.5 mil and I'm going to push right behind here, but it seems like this one already is kind of slightly depressed, which is okay. It doesn't need any ambient or anything. And we're going to hit update, okay, and now it is wirelessly updating the receiver. And
do you use the new TBS agent for the Crossfire?
the new one, what do you mean?
For Mac, they have like a new agent.
I haven't. I have this old ass busted PC that I use.
Same here. I haven't used it either.
Yeah.
I got asked that. Someone was like, "Hey, have you used the OS one?" And I was like, "No, I have like a shop computer that I use for printing tickets out."
Yeah, that's kind of what ours literally is for. TBS agent and OpenTX. Those are the two things that it's used for.
Yeah. Well, I still use mine also for BL Heli.
Oh God, fuck that thing.
Yeah, BL Heli 32.
All right, so we're almost done with the update firmware as far as the wireless. This is a cool thing about Crossfire is you can wirelessly update your receivers, where every other thing.
Move it down a little bit. There you go.
So it's loading onto the actual thing itself right now. Update complete. Okay. So we're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this from the computer, and I am going to, since I've loaded my stuff on here, it should act normal. So we're good to go. We have video. We have the OSD set up. Okay. And what it's going to do is when I flip the switch right here, the motor should spin, not with the gyro activated. And they do. Okay. Are they spinning the right way? No, they are all reversed. Wait, how is that even possible? Okay. How is that possible? I don't even know. Okay, well, anyways, so these motors right here, the front left and the rear left need to be spinning counterclockwise. And the front right and rear left need to be spinning counterclockwise. and the front left and the rear right need to be spinning clockwise, and they are all spinning opposite, which I actually am kind of baffled because usually they all spin the same direction. But I'm going to plug this into the computer. We're going to go connect. We're going to go to ESC flasher. Yes, I know what I'm doing. And I'm going to reverse 1, 2, 3, and 4 and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to disconnect. We're going to power cycle. I'm going to remove here, plug in here, and let's see what happens this time. Clockwise, 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 clockwise. Okay, so we need to reverse 2 more, or we need to reverse, what are these? Front right and rear left. Which, honestly, I'm, again, baffled at what's happening right now. So this is motor 1, this is motor 2, motor 3, and 4. So we need to reverse 2 and 4. So we go to ESC flasher, we say reverse direction 2 and 4, we hit save, we hit disconnect, we unplug here. I'm pretty sure you have to power cycle it. This is weird. I've never had a quad like give me trouble with motor direction. What are you doing? Now they're all opposite again. Oh, okay. Well, regardless, I am going to, resolve this issue right now because it's crazy to me. My eyeballs twitching. I'm getting tired. Okay, disconnect. Connect. Spinning. Hey. Don't eat that. Counter, counter, clockwise, clockwise. So at the end of the day, I just messed it up and reversed the wrong ESCs at the wrong time in the beginning. What you need to do is you need to do 2 and 4 need to be reversed. That's how it should be. So counter, counter, clockwise, clockwise. You arm the gyro. It should act right with the props off. If you go forward on the elevator, I know you can't see this. Oh God, just chopping my radio apart. If you go forward with the elevator, the rears will speed up. If you go back of the elevator, the fronts will speed up. If you go left, the right will speed up. If you go right, the left will speed up. And obviously, throttle will increase throttle. And if you pick it up and it tries to resist, it's acting correctly. Okay? So we're good to go on this front. Let's go ahead and unplug here and put it all together. And then we'll check it one last time and we'll do a hover test and we'll be good to go. So I leave on these guys, I'm just like stuffing it in there kind of under the FC. So, whatever. Not that big of a deal. If you need to change video transmitter channels, I'll show you how to do that. I put this just kind of under here like that, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So the video transmitter just kind of sits under, kind of floating like that, and I'll show you why here in a moment. Let me turn this off.
You can see how much space you have with those 30mm standoffs too.
35, man. It's fucking beastly.
Or 35, yeah.
It's beastly in there.
Plenty of room in there. One guy was saying that, I guess, like when you have your LiPo plugged in or something, it doesn't save your settings with KISS.
Oh yeah, that is true. But it does when you are changing the ESCs. That's just for when you're changing PIDs. You know why it doesn't do that? Because Chad fucking tried to take off in my basement full throttle after saving. Like, that's what happens if you try to save when... So just as a safety precaution, you physically can't save settings when the quad is on. And it used to not be like that, but Chad Nowak was over here in the basement saving some settings with the quad on as he was running back and forth from testing stuff outside, and it just fucking full throttled into some halogen lights and basically exploded them all over the place. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So
at least it was the lights, not a space.
Yeah, and it was just like full throttling in the. It was like it went up, and it had a USB port attached to it, and the USB port. It was like a June bug, like fucking attached to a line, like trying to fly away. It was savage. Okay, so one little last thing that we need to do here is we need to put the foam wedge on. Now I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So this is the kind of completed quad right here. This is pretty much how it is when it's flying. The only thing that's missing is the little rubber piece that goes on top here, which
a little battery pad.
I can't find. I use Velcro, but I'll find a battery pad for this one. And then the Velcro thing, and also the straps. We need to put the straps on. So let's do the Velcro, the foam wedge. So this is a foam wedge sold by Impulse RC. It is hydro cut because you can't cut this with a knife because it will smash the foam. And this is like, I don't know, high density, good foam, whatever. It's good foam, honestly. If you want to go the cheap route, you can totally go to like get some yoga block foam and it'll work decently, but it's not as good as this. So what you want to do is you want to heat up this, and you want to heat up the carbon because it's ultimately going to make the carbon or the adhesive stick better. You can't get it too hot, so it's kind of like a fine line. You can heat up the carbon a little more than you can the block itself. And I'm having trouble kind of gauging how hot it is because it's so cold down here. And once you get it hot, I take it and I basically line up the block with the back of the screws on the very front, and I just kind of push. Alright? So the block is on. Now the last thing we need is a piece of Velcro. This piece of Velcro is measuring out at 35 millimeters by 45 millimeters, and that is going to go on top of here, and that's going to hold our GoPro down. So we're going to pull this off. I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to heat both of them again. Again, just make sure you don't get stuff too hot because it will. You can
learn that same trick when attaching the GoPro mounts to the like motorcycle helmets.
Yeah, you heat that shit up,
so it stays on there.
Yeah, it stays on there forever if you heat it up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's really hard to take it off.
So there we go. Just smash that stuff on there, that heat up trick. Now we have these three things to do, and we have our little feet to do. So let's put the feet on real quick before we do anything. So these feet, this is like a piece of foam that comes with the Alien kit. And this is like the most gnarly foam ever. This foam came from like Chad Nowak. He found it at this place called Clark's Rubber in Australia. And I'm cutting all of these to be about the same length, which I will measure here in a second. This is just kind of eyeballing because, yeah, it doesn't need to be exact. So for reference, I cut each one of these to about 30 millimeters, so a little over an inch. And you don't need to heat these up. I put these right at the end, right before the screw ends. And what this does is it just keeps the quad from like getting all scratched up on the concrete as far as your anodized aluminum screws are concerned. So we're just gonna throw a couple of these little nuggets on here. And that's it. You don't need to do anything crazy. You just kind of push those down, and this foam is not going to rip off. This foam is amazing. Like if you've ever dealt with the bullshit foam you get from like Get FPV or something, it always rips off and the adhesive stays on. This will not rip. It's like freaking amazing. I don't know where they get it, but I've had foam on my quads for like, I don't even know, 8 months now, no issues. So the last thing is our ETHIX GoPro strap, which is actually a Gowie strap, the exact same thing. It's got this really nice, like tacky, you get this stuff hot, and it just like sticks to your finger. It's super cold right now, so it's not really working, but watch. Get it a little hot, touch it to something, and it sticks. So anyways, it's super good for holding GoPros on. And I slip it in through the side like this, right underneath, and that's how I mount my GoPros.
It's like more than super good for holding GoPros on. I mean, I've had some crazy crashes, and that thing like is so stuck to the GoPro. It's crazy.
Yep. And then we have these, which I run them staggered. So I run, if you're looking at the back of the quad, I run the clip on the left, on the back one, and this is a little bit easier to do if the top plate's off, but obviously we're just gonna feed it through. I run one strap here in the back, right behind the the standoffs basically, and the little zip tie here kind of holds it in place. So you're between the rear standoffs and that zip tie, and the Velcro, or sorry, the little claspy part is on the left, and then I run it opposite up here underneath the video transmitter so that I'm not putting any pressure on the video transmitter. And why I do this is because when I run a battery, I'll show you.
Yeah, I always found doing it that way helps center my battery a little bit more.
Yeah, so when I run a GoPro, I run a piece of Velcro on the bottom, stick it like this.
Did you ever find like that the ETHIX GoPro strap, sometimes like it's very hard to even take the Velcro off? That's how like
they're
gnarly the Velcro is
so
too.
I put it on like this, and people are always like, why don't you strap it down across the middle? No, you want to strap it down across the top of the GoPro. So when you pull it down, you have to recenter the GoPro, and it's pulling it down at an angle, and that helps to keep it from ejecting. So that's how you mount the GoPro. And then when you put these straps on, I'm just going to put a 6S battery on here because I don't have any 4S 1300s, and I don't have a battery thing on there. But I put my batteries usually like this or like this. I run one strap around here, tight. I'm not going to tighten it too much because again, there's not a thing, there's just like screws digging into the battery. And then this one, I run tight, and then I run the battery lead here, run over the top like that, holds the battery lead, and then when I plug it in here, it keeps everything all nice and tidy and out of the way of the props. So when I crash and tumble and roll, I got two straps holding the battery, and it's also pulled back out of the way. So before anyone freaks out, let's go ahead and slap this nugget on here and put some props on this bugger and get him in the air, by golly, and see if he even flies. So this is a 1500. I don't recommend a 1500. I recommend a 1300, mainly because weight matters. And we're gonna plug in here. Plug in. You see how nice and tidy that is? It's out of the way of the props. It's not going anywhere. It's held down by this strap. We're gonna let the gyro synchronize, get everything good. We're gonna check the direction of prop. Counterclockwise, clockwise, clockwise. Make sure it wiggles right. Make sure you can pick it up. It doesn't freak out. Make sure it acts correctly. Make pitch forward. The rear should spin up. Everything's acting normal. So we pop this. We pop these. And oh my God, the quad's off.
Yeah, I like how my radio's always telling me the receiver's still connected when I turn it on.
We'll grab these. Put some pinks in the front. Put some props in the back.
Got one guy asking here, first person Q, wants to know if you could do a video on the quad setup for liftoff like you did on Velocidrone.
I hate telling people no, but I don't like liftoff enough to do that. I have done a setup video, like I have PIDs for that sim, but I genuinely do not like Steam, and every time I download it on my computer freaks out. So I can give you the PIDs, but I'm not gonna like do a setup like I guess I didn't do that with Lost Drone. So yes, I guess. Yes, I will. I'll give you the PIDs. So, anyways, that was a 5-inch build for an alien from scratch, which is pretty awesome.
Those S3 props?
Yeah, man. That's all I got. I literally...
Just use the V1S for the ESC covers now?
Yeah, because they're wider. That's the reason I use them. So, anyways, I guess the last final thing is you want to make sure your props are tight. You want to make sure they're not loose on there.
And the right direction.
And in the right direction. You want to make sure that all the bolts in the aircraft are tight, and periodically check them and snug them up when you are flying, because they do get loose. I just, periodically check, snug everything up before you go out and fly. I would say probably every 5 to 10 times you go out and fly. Check your motor bolts, check your standoff bolts. Usually the standoff bolts are what comes loose, but these things are literally just big vibrating machines, so you're gonna have some things come loose. It's just part of the territory here. I guess what we can do now is chopper face off. So we're good. We're armed. Our props are going counter, counter, clockwise, clockwise. I might be able to do this. Just make sure like everything's. Can you see?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I'm not gonna like fly it because it's late and everybody's asleep, but I just want to show you that it does fly. So yeah, it flies. The one thing that you do need to make sure you do is before you do anything, go into your Nano RX, which I didn't have to do this on this one, which is weird, but you go into, I had to change the other ones from PPM to channel map. You want to make sure the failsafe is set to cut. If you have any issues with binding, you may have to go into your channel map and set it to Crossfire instead of PPM or S-Bus. So those are the two things you need to make sure, that failsafe is set to cut and that your output mapping is, set up to where it's Crossfire. If you are running Crossfire. If you're not running Crossfire, then, whatever. What you can...
Yeah, to ask, why do we prefer using that straight Crossfire antenna against the Diamond? Even Alex Grieve didn't know. I mean, me personally, I had dropouts with the Diamond, but I never had an issue with the straight one. And the Diamond was a pain in the ass to carry everywhere.
The Diamond is totally a pain in the ass to carry, and I have had just, generic... I just like this antenna. I don't know why, I just like it. It's hand-built by some Ukrainian dude. I like it.
Yeah, it's a good antenna. I run with two of them in my bag just in case I lose one or something. That's the only one I want to use.
Yeah. So let me
I didn't even know where to put the Diamond. I was like, where do I store this in there?
Yeah. It's kind of a strange... Oh god, there we go. Alright. So, we're done. I think I'm getting yelled at because it's 3:30 in the morning and I'm live streaming, but it's probably really loud, but hopefully you guys had a good time watching this. I don't know how long it was, but we have a full, complete alien now, and
that power box in the back.
Yeah, you can see it. Hey.
Yeah.
I can't sleep.
I get it. I'm live on YouTube. People are freaking out. I'm sure they're like, Alright, anyways. I'm getting in trouble. I'll see you guys later, and hopefully you enjoyed this build video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Alright, see you guys.
I don't even know how to stop it. Dang, that was only